This is a story of a man named Stanley. A story that has an ending, no endings, many endings. A story that functions flawlessly in an unfunctional fallacy that we can call a paradox, a prose, a parable. The Stanley Parable does the unbelievable, unthinkable undertaking. Makes absurdity art. But let's keep the chaos for the game and kick off this review with the intro. The Stanley Parable is perhaps one of the most influential indie games ever released, and certainly one of my favorites. Since the sequel/remake Ultra Deluxe will be out eventually, I think it's a great time to reflect upon Galactic Café, now Proud's game, Magnus Opus, and explain what made the first title amazing, a masterclass of video game narration. But we need to start somewhere, so what better place to do so than Stanley's office number 427. The Source Engine game starts off in a normal office setting, where all employees are missing. No one has showed up to give Stanley instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years as a company has this happen, this complete isolation. A mysterious premise, somewhat intriguing, but nothing out of this world. But after a couple of steps, the narrator tells the most famous punchline in video game history.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Here the game truly takes off, and the ramification of the choices made will lead the player to many endings. I will not of course spoil any ending in particular, but let me tell you, expect the unexpectable. While the very first choice may appear to be cut and clear, the follow-up choices within the adventure will be more hidden than what the game may suggest. Even known choices will be noted by the narrator, and once an ending is reached, don't assume that everything will be back at its place afterwards. You may think you are smart in the game, but don't forget, the house always wins. In fact, even in this very moment if you've been lied to, the set of 2 open doors is not even the first choice the player can make. I'm not going to reveal the multiple, yes multiple ways you can finish the game even earlier than that. This is no tutorial video, is it? But let me just say, you gotta think outside the box. What makes the Stanley Parable one of the most beautiful adventures made into a video game is how much complexity the game has. When we think of complexity, we may think of massive role-playing games with countless characters, endless small choices, and a myriad of dungeons to explore. Certainly not a walking simulator. Yet the Stanley Parable has so much hidden content that without guidance it would be near impossible to discover it all. If we could summarize big titles, we would do so in novels, but to summarize the Stanley Parable, we would need a riddle. All endings present in the Stanley Parable are irrational, mind-blowing, nonsensical. The narrator will turn the world upside down whenever he finds you going off track. You can break the game, find a bug, go off script. You just keep in mind that for every logical action corresponds an illogical reaction, and the escalation of this bizarre cycle never ends in your favor. The game does not take long to complete, at least once, on average about 50 minutes, but it is the intrigue to find out what the other endings have been reserved that keeps the rhythm of the game constant. What if you entered that door? What if you didn't? What did you miss? Are all unanswered questions that will motivate you to play the game even more. You see, when you take that in consideration, hey, hold it right there. What do you think you're doing? Are you already typing in the comments a smug reaction like, well, actually, there are many games with choices to make. The Stanley Parable is not special, is it, lad? Look, I understand the dislike button is practically useless now that the count is no longer visible, but to comment on a video before you finish it? That's simply unpolite. Is your mother proud of you? That's what I thought. Now would you mind scrolling up and see the rest of this review? Yes, the non-linearity of the story is not unique to this game. Especially after 2013, there are many titles that have implemented some sort of player's choice system. However, I would argue that many games have branching paths for the sake of giving control to the player, and making his or her game experience feel special and unique. The Stanley Parable's choices are the game experience, and the title is quite permissive of letting you choose differently in every run. In other games, you usually end up choosing either to be a bad or a good guy. Do you save the people from this remote town or do you burn it to the ground? In the Stanley Parable, there is no such futile thing as morality. Just the pure desire to explore what the game hides from you makes this a true open adventure. Apart from the awesome endings, you can find plenty secrets scattered across the building. Too many to count. Some are around Did I find them all? That's a good question. Furthermore, when you restart other games, while there are many outcomes for many choices, the results are constant and the player can expect everything to remain intact. In the Stanley Parable, consistency is just another trivial element. The game will start in different corridors for the sake of it. It will remember what choices you made and passively aggressively judge you for those, and it is not afraid to throw you a softball randomly to keep you on your toes. Even if there are elements that can change randomly in the adventure, all endings can be reached in a run. You can expect to find all endings by yourself. Okay, who am I kidding, you will never find the Skype pod ending without external help, and again, this is no tutorial. Did you not hear audio file number 6 I played earlier? Alright, I'll give you one hint. Let's keep it vague. It's close to the broom closet ending. That, by the way, did you get the broom closet ending?
The broom closet ending was my favourite.
I hope your friends find this concerning.
But going back on track, what makes the Stanley Parable amazing is the absurdity of its narrative. You're not Stanley, you're not the narrator, you're an external entity that is writing a never-ending parable filled with inconsistencies and contradictions. You as a player feel transported in Wonderland. You are vulnerable to the narrator and unable to predict what will come next. I may have not highlighted this enough when explaining the game mechanics. The title is extremely amusing, fun, hilarious. The never-ending absurdity just gets better and better the more you play. In the 10-ish hours of the Stanley Parable, you'll be laughing out loud for all the responses the narrator has for your most likely responsible actions. And speaking of the narrator, I think there's no better actor to deliver the narrator's line than the British Kevin Brighting. His tone, his voice, his reactions, no description of mine will ever do him justice. Isn't that right, Brighting?
No, this isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes.
The game is filled with gags and jokes that are hard to forget. The narrator's reactions alone are worth the ticket of the journey, and just before you think you heard everything he has to say, you just heard a third of his dialogue. At last, we have the technical aspect of the game to discuss. Look, I'm going to be frank with you, dear viewer. I wrote like 5-6 paragraphs describing the graphics of the game, when suddenly I realized that, well, it's an office made on Source Engine with 2/3 of the assets borrowed from Half-Life 2, so I think we can stop beating around the bush and speedrun this last section of the video. What do you say? I promise I'll be quick. The game has a simplistic art direction, a net contradiction of what is the game's complex structure. However, don't be fooled with the few items present in the game, because the creator has used all his tools as much as possible to create as many bizarre and incredible locations scattered around the adventure. The 80-year-old title looks as fresh as ever, and the offices look as offices as ever. We couldn't ask for more. The Stanley Parable is one of the best games I've ever played, and there is no reason for you not to pick it up. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe will be out soon, and the best thing about it is that it's both a sequel and a remake, two birds with one stone. The Stanley Parable is a demonstration of the art of absurdity, and even if the experience might not be too long, I guarantee you will never experience something like it once you play it. If you made it this far, I thank you one too many endings times for watching today's video. Today's review was different to say the least. It wasn't a fashionable organized review like the others, but I wanted to keep the same theme of the game and try out something new. When the sequel comes out, would you like to see a review about it as well? Let me know down in the comments. But until then, I wish you a wonderful day. Arrivederci.